How's it going, guys? I'm KTO, and pardon me, I'm suffering from a bit of allergies, so it's kind of hard to talk. Anyway, with the NFL draft rapidly approaching, I had to do a video on some of the strangest things that's ever happened in the history of the NFL draft. Now, I did leave some things out, like players not playing for religious reasons and massive trades, but compared to some of the things on this list, those just weren't that strange. But without further ado, onto the video. Number 1, the Bucs draft the wrong player. In 1982, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers had the 17th overall pick, and they were eyeing two players, offensive guard Sean Farrell out of Penn State, and freak athlete Booker Reese out of Bethune-Cookman College. When the Bucs were on the clock, the team executives were ready to call in their selection. They had decided to go with Booker Reese. When they went to call it in to the representative at the draft, the phone call went something like this, quote, "We're not going with Sean Farrell. We're going with Booker Reese." But due to the noise in the background and the outdated equipment they were using, the representative could only make out one part of the phone call, Sean Farrell's name. So he assumed that was their selection. So the whole front office of the Bucs were sitting there watching their TVs as Pete Rozelle went up to the podium, and to their dismay, announced the Bucs had selected Sean Farrell. I can't even imagine what the front office felt the moment they heard the wrong name. They did try and rescind the pick and aggressively pleaded the NFL to change their decision, but they wouldn't allow it. Later on in the same draft, they would give up a future first-round pick to trade up for Booker Reese in the second round. And the worst part about this whole situation was he turned out to be a total bust. This debauchery kind of represents the 80s Bucs anyway, who set the record for the most consecutive losses, at 26. Number 2, the CFL drafting dead players. Yeah, this video is about the NFL, but this story was just too bizarre not to include in this video. In 1995, the Ottawa Rough Riders were looking to improve their defensive line, so they drafted defensive end Daryl Robertson. There was just one problem with this selection. Robertson had died the year before in a car accident. Whoa. Can you even imagine what the front office thought when they found out he had died? Wait, who's the head scout? How did that dude even have a job? According to their head coach Jim Gilstrap, the league didn't even know he was dead until we told them. And we didn't know until we couldn't find him. Wow. The craziest part about this isn't the only time this happened. The very next year, the Montreal Alouettes drafted another defensive end, James Eggink, in the 5th round, only to find out later that he had died of cancer the year before. Shortly after the owner found out, he had said, quote, "I'm upset and embarrassed. I would think the first qualification they might want to come up with is that the person's alive." Honestly, if that coach kept any of those scouts that he had, that's his fault. Number 3, Laremy Tunsil. Now, this one happened only last year. For months leading up to the 2016 draft, Tunsil was projected as the number 1 overall pick. And for good reason. The dude's a total beast. But after the Rams and the Eagles had traded up for the first 2 picks, his stock dropped just a little bit. And also, some teams were wary about some of his past issues. He had some off-the-field problems, and he was also suspended for part of his senior year at Ole Miss. But now, let's fast forward to draft night. Just minutes before the start of the first round. That's when a video was posted on Tunsil's Twitter showing him wearing a gas mask and smoking a bong. This video spread like wildfire on social media, and team executives started to freak out. His Twitter had been hacked, and Tunsil claimed the video was years old, but this didn't stop him from dropping out of the top 10, seemingly losing millions of dollars. Him sitting in that draft room after this moment had to be one of the most intense moments in NFL draft history. But finally at pick number 13, the Dolphins just couldn't resist and snagged Tunsil. And then shortly after being selected, his Instagram account was then hacked as well. And there was a photo posted of a conversation between him and his head coach at Ole Miss. It was a text message discussing arrangements for him to pay Tunsil's rent and his mother's utility bill, aka improper benefits. After this horrific scene for Tunsil, he had to sit down in the media room and take heat from the press. But to be fair to him, he owned up to everything and told them the truth, which that would be pretty hard to do considering the insanity of what had just taken place. I give props to him for manning up to his actions. Number 4, the Redskins draft the same player twice. Now this one's pretty old, but it's still funny. In 1946, the Redskins had the 8th overall pick. With that, they were eyeing a promising young defender named Cal Rossi. And when he was still on their draft board at number 8, they were so excited they immediately ran up their pick. But unfortunately, they came to find out why nobody had drafted him. He wasn't even eligible to leave college yet. That's top-notch scouting. But here's where persistence can often be fatal. After the following season, the owner decided that now since he was eligible, they would take him again if he was still available. Which they did. Only one problem with this. Rossi had signed up for the Navy and had zero intention of playing professional football. Ouch. I guess after this incredible display of draft analysis, which is worse, drafting a dead guy or drafting the same player twice, who ends up never playing for you? Number 5, the Browns call the wrong player. In 2011, with the 102nd pick in the draft, the Browns were going to select Jordan Cameron. When the team went to call him to congratulate him on being drafted, they didn't call Jordan Cameron. They called Cameron Jordan, defensive end who had already been selected. So the Browns were on the phone trying to explain to Cameron Jordan that they had just picked him, and he said back, quote, yeah, this is Cameron Jordan, but the Saints already picked me. I think you mean Jordan Cameron. You're looking for Jordan Cameron. That's not me. Come on, Cleveland. Number 6, the Vikings forget to make their pick. With the 7th pick in 2003, the Vikings were on the clock, which they had 15 minutes to submit their selection. And after 15 whole minutes, for whatever reason, the Vikings just never submitted a pick.
It's a bold strategy, Cotton. Let's see if it pays off for them.
So that put the Jaguars on the clock, and they made their selection. However, the Vikings didn't lose their pick. They could make their selection at any time, but for whatever reason, they let 2 teams pick before they finally submitted their selection. And they ended up picking Kevin Williams, who actually became a 6-time Pro Bowler, which was better than the 2 picked ahead of him. So just maybe this wasn't such a bad move after all. A similar case to this would happen to the Ravens years later. And number 7, the Bo Jackson situation. So Bo was incredibly hyped up coming into the 1986 draft. He had already taken the sports world by storm in football and baseball. So the Buccaneers are going to make this video twice, because they had the number 1 pick in 1986. And before the draft, they had flown Bo out to Tampa. The only problem with this is it was before baseball season his last year at Auburn, and that's against NCAA rules, which they never told Bo. And it ended up getting Bo suspended for his final year of baseball. Bo was set on this belief that the Bucs had thought if they could get him to not play baseball his last season, he would just focus completely on football moving forward. Which, if this is true, totally backfired. And Bo was pretty pissed off. And he told the Bucs, quote, "Go ahead and draft me if you want. You're going to waste a draft pick. I promise you that." The Bucs didn't really care about that apparently, because they still drafted him number 1 overall, which was preceded by Bo declining their offer and deciding to go play in the MLB. Bo would re-enter the draft the following season, and he was drafted by the Raiders in the 7th round. And to be quite honest, that was probably the right move for Bo. I think the Raiders were just a better fit for him. But if you wanted to see what it was like if he ended up playing for Tampa, you should check out my what if video on Bo Jackson. Hey, Bucs fans, at least you guys eventually turned a corner and won a Super Bowl. There is still plenty of championship-starved teams who are looking for their first. So thank you for checking out this video. I've been using different types of concepts for videos, mixing it up because it's the off season. Let me know what you guys think of this type of video. And I know a lot of you have been asking for a mock draft. I will do one before the draft, I promise. So have a good one, and I'll catch you on my next video.